What happens when you've got a whiskey that just roars with personality? It's probably a bit like being thrown in the lion's den. Today, it's the famous Laphroaig 10-year-old and Daniel in the lion's den. Welcome back to Scotch and Scripture. Alright friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you can be with me today. My name is Rob, this is Scotch and Scripture, and today is this guy. I love the Laphroaig 10-year-old. Now, I love it for many reasons. A lot of people think Laphroaig 10 and really all of the Laphroaig range is a bit like Marmite or Vegemite. You either kind of love it or you hate it. There's not too many people that are kind of like, yeah, it's alright. Most people either love it or hate it. I am firmly in the love it camp. Lyle love it. It is everything that I enjoy about whiskey. It's got every element, and it's even got an element that I haven't had in any other whiskey, so it's just a special one. And it's endorsed by none other than Bonnie Prince Charlie. Alright, so it's Prince Charles, and actually it's not even Prince Charles anymore. He's since had a promotion, but it's the only Scotch whisky that carries the royal seal. So you're literally in the company of kings when you drink Laphroaig. So Mummy. It is an Islay whisky from the magical Isle of Islay. So it's got all the Islay characteristics. This is probably the flagship whisky for Islay. Some people will argue that it's Ardbeg 10, and to be fair, that's a pretty strong argument. It's probably one or the other, and that's quite a statement in itself because there's so many amazing distilleries on Islay, and we haven't even got there yet on this channel. Oh, but we will, I promise. I just love everything about this whisky. There's also a sherry cask version of this 10-year, which is absolutely sensational, and I just wish I had some left. It's actually quite hard to find. This isn't hard to find though. You'll find this in pretty much any liquor store worth its salt or smoke. You should find it for around about $60, maybe a shade over. I've seen it as low as $37 at Costco, and I didn't know if that was a bargain of a century or just an absolute insult, so I bought like 3 bottles. They're also an amazing marketing whiskey. Like, they know their brand, they know what they are, they know that they are not for everybody, and they kind of bank on that. Nice clean font, it's a nice white cardboard box. It stands out anywhere you go. You instantly recognise it. I've even had the fudge. Look at this. This is Laphroaig fudge. I think this might have been a gift from my mum, or maybe it was a gift from myself when we were in Edinburgh. I can't remember. Honestly, it's amazing. It shouldn't be, but it is. It's just fantastic. Look at this. I've even got the Laphroaig Glencairn glass. So this is kind of like, I'm a bit of a fangirl here. But there's worse things that you could fangirl, right? Or fanboy. Who knows these days? I'm just going to carefully put you back right up on top where you belong. Oh, so good. It's just a whiskey that, like, if I was at a restaurant and I knew that they were serving whiskey in a tumbler glass, even though that would offend me deeply, I would probably still take it if it was Laphroaig, because I know it so well. So I wouldn't feel like I was missing out on anything because I know the flavours, I know the nose. It's just a bottle that I've always got. It's one of my absolute favourites. Yeah, on the nose, obviously you get a little smoke, but the longer you live with it, it's not just smoke. Drawing some battle lines in the sand a little bit, because Ardbeg people are a little bit crazy for Ardbeg. I think that Ardbeg is much more pure smoke than any other Scotch, maybe except for like the Octomore or like Port Charlotte. I think it's way smokier than Lagavulin, Bowmore for sure. But the smoke of Laphroaig, I think, is more on the back end. I don't think it's a smoke forward whiskey, even though it's known for being heavily peated. I think the first thing you get is that medicinal note, the one that kind of separates people and makes them kind of think, do I like this or not? I'm not sure. And interestingly, I think British people, when they come to the States for the first time, or Canada, and when they get root beer, it just divides them instantly. People either love it or they hate it, and there's a similar note in root beer, kind of a medicinal note in root beer, and that's borne out by people going back to the UK and saying that root beer tastes like germaline. Germaline's like kind of an ointment. It's a bit like Neosporin. I think it's better. We always have it in our house. My mum always brings it out when she visits. I'll bet every expat house in America has germaline from their mum, and it's just a really effective salve, but it's got that note, that kind of medicinal note, and you kind of smell like germaline. And I think Laphroaig's got that a little bit. You still have that sweetness on top. There is a smoke there, but it's like a cool smoke. The smoke comes later, you know. Oh, it's just lovely. Salt, a little bit that kind of magic marker, kind of nail polish remover note that a lot of whiskies have got. Oh, I can't wait any longer. Okay, 10 seconds. 10 seconds on the palate for 10 years in a barrel. Slàinte mhath. And the smoke, that's where you get it. Oh man, right on the palate, it's just right there. Oh, the back of your tongue, just that thick smoke, it really starts to come out, but it's mellowed out by the sweetness that comes over the top of it. Like a vanilla, smoky vanilla is okay, kind of a caramel corn warmth, like a real malty warmth. It's just gorgeous. And now the finish is dry, it kind of dries out quite quickly. It's tarry, it's thick. The mouthfeel of this whiskey's oily. I look at the legs on it, I mean the legs are fantastic, look at that. Nice legs, sweetheart. Just thick, running down slowly like thick paint. Kind of meaty, umami, and then the sweetness and the smoke. Oh my goodness. It's a bit like, you know, in that movie Ratatouille, when Remy's doing the bit with the cheese and the strawberry at the same time and it's all fireworks going around his little head. This guy, that's Scottish Remy. It's a bit like that. That's what Laphroaig's like for me. It's a party. It's a party in my mouth, which sounds gross. Obviously nobody's invited to that party because nobody would come. Anyway, I just can't recommend it highly enough. I absolutely love Laphroaig. I'm a friend of Laphroaig. I'm part of their whole referral program. I have a square foot of land on Islay apparently that I probably have no legal claim to, but I've got a certificate, and apparently if I go to Laphroaig distillery I get a free dram, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, if you're on the fence, I just say try it. Try it, and if it's a bit too much for you, let's do a little water real quick. A little water to open it up. Yeah, see, it just brings the sweetness out. I would say that the water really calms down the smoke and really brings that meatiness, kind of brininess to the front, but it's still got that nice sweetness that kind of saves it. I would say that of all the kind of easy to find, widely available Scotch whiskies that you've heard of, especially if you're just getting into Scotch, of all of them, the Laphroaig 10 is a testament to the Richard Paterson method of drinking whiskey, which is to take your time with it, to nose it, and to hold it on the palate for that length of time. If you're just sort of sipping Laphroaig and just gulping it down, I just feel like no wonder that might divide opinion. The burn, the intense flavour is probably just too much, so definitely take your time with it. Take your time with it. You know, you're in no rush. You should be drinking whiskey responsibly, slowly, and as we do on this channel, drink it while we're thinking about what God's speaking to us about. So let's get to that. Before we do, I'm just going to ask you to like and subscribe if you hasn't already. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, really helps me out. Thanks, pals. And just a quick disclaimer, I am not a pastor, I am not a teacher, so I can't be held to that higher account, at least on YouTube. I'm just an encourager. I love the Bible, and there are people like me out there that I want to form a community with, and this is just me giving some thoughts on some stuff that I read, because I think the best conversations about God come over a nice little glass of whiskey with friends. Alright, reading Daniel 6. Daniel 6 is the chapter about Daniel getting thrown into the lion's den. Here's some thoughts I had while I was reading that this week. First thing is this, is Daniel's life at this point in chapter 6 going pretty well. His career's going pretty well. He's highly favoured by King Darius. He's kind of the big man on campus, and he's highly respected. And so often in life when things are going so well, it's only a matter of time before boof, something horrible happens. And sure enough, there are people who are out to get Daniel. There are people who are out to sow discord. Proverbs tells us how bad it is to sow discord amongst brothers. It's one of the worst things. I had a friend of mine tell me one time that the reason why God hates gossip so much is because that's what took place in the Garden of Eden between Eve and the serpent. So, you know, loose lips sink ships, and discord is one of the most destructive and terrible things that we can do to another person. So these other advisors, they think of a plan and they go, okay, well, this is how we're going to get this Daniel guy. He obviously prays 3 times to his God. He's kind of immovable. We're going to make it so that Darius signs this decree. Nobody can worship anybody but Darius. I'm really interested in this, that Darius is bound by his own agreement. He doesn't read the small print, so to speak. He's probably so enamored with his own power and probably just taking it for granted that everybody around him has got their best interest. I mean, how many times have you heard a story about that? Famous guys that just get taken advantage of because they just assume the people around them want the best for them, but then when things fall apart, they're nowhere to be found. Anyway, his advisors have gotten bound to this agreement that anybody who worships God is going to be put to death. And thinking of Darius being put in that predicament, it's a good reminder that there are things that we should and can say no to, and I think a lot of times, especially if you're serving at church, it's so easy just to keep saying yes all the time. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. Oh, nobody else is going to do it. I'll do it. Don't get me wrong, if you don't serve at church and everybody else is doing everything, then you should serve at church. There's no question about that. But if you're one of those people who's like, you never miss a service, you're always there, maybe you're on staff, or maybe like I did, you've grown up and you've always been around churches that don't really have staff, they just kind of are self-sufficient, but you're doing everything all the time. You know, there comes a time where you have to say no. We have to kind of be reminded to say no, because our no needs to be a no, so that our yes can be a more effective yes when it happens. So Darius is kind of stuck by what he said, and lo and behold, Daniel's about to get tossed into the lion's den. Daniel, a godly man, a man of outstanding moral fortitude, is about to go through the test of his life. It's so funny, like the passage of time with these things. Sometimes when we hear about Daniel in the lion's den, for example, the Jonah and the whale, or David and Goliath is a good one. We're so used to hearing these stories, and a lot of us, if we grew up in church, we probably did fuzzy felt, putting the little guys up on the fuzzy wall and like, you know, learning our Bible stories that way, which is really effective, but it does kind of neuter them a little bit. You think about the reality of being faithful to God and the expectation that kind of goes along with that, which we all have. And then all of a sudden, you are kind of ripped from your house and you are tossed into a literal lion's den with big hungry lions that are just wanting to eat you. The crazy thing about this story is that there's not actually a record in chapter 6 of Daniel pleading or praying or calling out to God or doing anything, having any kind of reaction. One minute he's chilling, next minute he's getting tossed into the lion's den. It's actually King Darius that we read about who says these amazing words. Darius says, "May the God who you serve continually deliver you." I'm blown away by that, because I think to myself, well, what does that say about the way that Daniel lived his life? And what does that say to us about the way that we need to live our lives? A good friend of mine and mentor told me once, he said, you should live your life in such a way that if somebody questions your character, everybody else laughs at them. And ever since hearing that, I've genuinely tried to live my life that way. Now, I fail at it, I'm sure, all the time. But there is a benchmark to integrity, there's a benchmark to our character. And clearly, Daniel is way above this benchmark. He's like a high jumper that's cleared the bar by some distance, because he doesn't have to say a word. At least it's not recorded in the book, but it is recorded that Darius has the reaction, basically saying, I'm believing in your God for you. That's how much you show me that your faith is real. I'm believing your God for you because you are over the top in the way that you express your faith, and I'm blown away by you. And I just think that's an incredible thought. And then I love verse 23, the conclusion of it, what it says, and it verifies Darius' outcry. It says, no kind of harm was found on him because he trusted his God. That bears a little pause, I think. In the den, fears could not alarm him. God just shut the lion's mouth so they could not harm him. That song reminds me of my dad playing the guitar at Sunday school when we were kids. He's the only guitar player in the world I know that only plays with his wrist. He doesn't move his arm. He just do. Every single chorus that you sang had actions. Do you remember that? See these kids these days that are grown up with all the modern worship and the click tracks and all the backing stuff and all that. They don't know, man. They don't know. Deep and wide, deep and wide. They don't know any of that, you know? And that's a tragedy. I'm telling you, you've got to get yourself a bottle of Laphroaig 10. If you've been holding back and you're not sure, I'm telling you, just take your time with it and just watch this video while you're sipping on it. And mate, I'll see you through it. Don't worry. And as an added bonus, if you go onto the Laphroaig website, you can watch this beautifully shot mini documentary thing that they do on the process of making Laphroaig whiskey. It's honestly gorgeous. I don't know how films get recommended for Oscars, but I'd like to find out to nominate this film, because it deserves the Oscar for the most beautiful thing ever put on camera, after, you know, Braveheart and Local Hero, Archie Gemmill scoring against Holland in 1978 in the World Cup. Other than that, it's right up there. Anyway, let's think about that, and maybe that's something for you to think about this week. No kind of harm was found on him because he trusted in his God. I love that. My friend, may it be that no harm comes to you because you trust in your God. Such a pleasure to talk to you. Such a pleasure to try and build this community with you. Again, please like and subscribe, share it with people, and let's enjoy a wee dram together as we think about things that are much more important. This week, may God bless you and protect you and your family. Until next time, Slàinte mhath.